Well, hello and welcome to PM Express, to the favorite part of the day where you should be sat back and relaxing, waiting for today's details. And indeed, it's a very important topic: armed robbery on the increase. And it's one of those things where, what if they haven't come to your neighborhood? You thought, well, it's them and not us, but you just don't know when they will strike. But it seems to be on the increase. Now, anytime such things happen, you wonder, look, is it that we are reporting a bit more, or is it that no, genuinely it's gone up and there's been a trend? But they take mile 7, where some of the robberies have been in broad daylight. You look at East Legon, some of the robberies were in broad daylight, a bit one too many. Well, some of them are even saying, look, we conspire with security. How come we rob a particular area and there's no police there at that particular time? Because they know we're going to rob them. Many people have also complained that some of the guns that these robbers are using, you look at the person robbing you and you look at the gun he's holding and you just know that you put 2 and 2 together, look, he's loaned it from somewhere. But in any case, as a nation, as a country, security forces, how do we make the country safe? Because indeed it is one of our fundamental rights just to live in peace and safety. My name is Nana Ansakwa IV, Chief of the Fables Little Republic, Akomodu Masa. When I come back, I am talking to someone who knows a thing or two about security. Don't go.
I was at the office and my brother Habib called me around 12:30 exactly and was asking me which time do we pray the Friday prayers at our area. So what I told him was we pray 1:30 and 2. So what he told me was we'll be passing by. So when he came in, we were sitting and discussing. So after we went to the mosque and came back, what happened was a guy came in and he had 50 Ghana cedis, he wants CFA. So what I told him was, we don't have CFA now, so he left. And some couple of minutes ago, he came back again with his colleague. So when they entered in, that time I was not at the back of the counter, I was on the chest sitting. So when they entered it, he was standing just here where the generator was. And he was putting his hand in his pocket as if he was removing money. So that time, I was focusing, my mind was on him. So what I just saw that moment was, he just pulled out a gun out. That moment, as I saw the guy just move 1, 2, 3 steps and face him, that was the time. What I hear from him was, move back. After the move, I just shot him on my chest. So that's where I started struggle with him. So as the struggle was going on, I was hearing the other one telling his colleague that he should shoot you. So that was the second time shot that I had on my arm.
Did they shot you again?
Yeah, they shot me again. Yeah, as you can see me. But they shot me again. So after the struggle, what I remember was I told my brother to open the gate for me. So when he opened the gate, the one I was struggling with, I tried to bring him out, and I dragged him around, so on the roadside. That was the time I took him out. So as his colleagues saw that time I left the other one inside with my brother, they also were inside struggling. So as he saw that the way we were struggling, I was struggling with his colleague, he just rushed out and sparked up the motor. So the one I was struggling with was like, hit him with the motor, hit him with the motor. So after that, I was hearing that he was speaking Hausa language. So after that, I still tried to pull him back, drag him, and at the back of the gutter there, that's where we went to end ourselves there. So that's where I hold him. That time I was bleeding. That's when my brother came out and I shouted and told him to call for assistance. So
we were here ran about 3:30 to 4. I was sitting here when I saw a private car parking here. Then the man get out with a jacket, coat, a leather jacket. Then I said, oh, why this leather jacket? It didn't take about 1 minute. Then I heard, pew. Then I saw that it's a armed robbers. They take our mobile money. So when we add it, it's a 10,000 plus and mobile phone. Our Tigo mobile phone, Airtel, and your iPhone. Yes, I'm fear now. So even I went to police station and told them that they will give us a police to come and guide us, but the price was too much.
As soon as they came inside, they opened the gate and they entered. So I was trying to give my iPhone to my sister, then they gave a warning shot. So I was struggling with one, and one of them slapped me and used the, I don't know whether it's a stick, something to hit my back around 3:30 to 4 p.m. In the afternoon. But they said if people come around that they will kill one of us.
Well, these are some of the horrific incidents that have been happening around. With me in studio is Adam Bona, who's a security and safety expert. Adam, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Adam, is armed robbery on the rise, or is just a reportage that's on the rise?
Well, both of them. The reportage, I guess, is on the rise, and armed robbery has always been, on the rise. It's never gone down. And so one would say it is both of them. You have the reportage has gone up, and because we have more media houses now, and we have people, social media reporting some of these incidents, fast, and so definitely both of them are on the rise. Yeah.
Are they getting more violent?
Yes, they are getting more violent because you want to say, yesteryears when we didn't have the use of the internet, people weren't having access to easy, stuff. You have to watch a movie where most of these things are dramatized. These days, social media or the internet is everywhere, and so you would want to say people are playing too many games. I mean, most of these games are violent games, and if Europe and other places, out of these violent games, sometimes people try to experiment. And so you want to say the authorities would have to, clamp down on some of these game, facilities. They need to censor them. You go in there and you have little children who are, playing games that involve firearms and shooting and doing all. Once they come out and they have access to a gun, you want to experiment. And so, yeah. People are becoming violent because of some of these things we now have, which we used not to have. Yeah.
And the age, they seem to be dropping.
Yeah. Yeah. Just like I told you, I mean, our viewers, would those who are watching us would know that you wouldn't go into any of these game facilities to go and play any of these violent games. You are talking about young people from teenagehood to 22, 21, 25. They seems to have a lot of time on their hand. They don't seem to be doing nothing. So they go in there to either sometimes play gumbo, do all those things and end up playing games, and some of them have access to some medicines or some drugs that sometimes enhances whatever they believe in. Yeah.
But are you linking games directly with robbery, or
the truth is that if you look at violent crimes in elsewhere, violent crimes we all know. We've had young people open fire on their colleagues in schools because they thought they could experiment. But in our case, people have the need, and we have a lot of gambling centers all over there. You know, we have an age limit for people to go, those who want to go in there to, you know, gamble, and no one is checking. Supervision is poor, or it doesn't exist at all. And so you have a situation where you want to say, once these guys go in there and do what they want to do, they come out, they play games, and these games, like I mentioned earlier on, involves, you know, shooting on a target. And so some of these games would actually show you how to aim a gun, how to shoot, how to do this, how to do that. Yes.
If we take, for instance, what happened where, you know, they've broken into a forex bureau, they've taken money, they've gone into the mobile money shop, they've taken money. I mean, what's happening?
You know, one thing looks like we are losing sight of, Nana, and our viewers, is that we seems to now have too many mobile money centers dotted all over the country. And we are not matching that to the number of security personnel and security installations we have in the country. The right thing should have been, before you establish a joint where you have to do anything that involves money, forex bureau and the rest, you should go through some permitting or licensing regime. But you and I know that if I needed to have a mobile money put in place, all I needed to do is to get one of these little tiny, I call them, you know, 4x4, you know, prison cells where they stay in there. Some of them lock themselves in there, and yet they are robbed. The right thing should have been to ensure that these telecos who allow these people to engage in this would liaise with probably the police or whoever is supposed to be issuing licenses to you know, let them know that, for instance, if you come to the Adabraka area, we have probably 200 mobile money centers. Do we have a matching police force or police service to ensure that the place is properly protected? Probably no. And so there is some amount of disjoint when it comes to the rate at which we are putting in place, you know, money centers and forex bureaus, and the rate at which we are recruiting and training people to protect us. There is disjoint in there. And so definitely once people know it's easy for me to rob you, and it's going to be difficult for the police to come from wherever to arrest me, then it becomes easy for them to attack you and rob you, and they know you'll get away before the police comes. And usually they are successful.
So I say we are sort of dangling a carrot in front of them.
Yes, literally. And also lifestyle. If you look at our lifestyle, we are people, excuse me to say, we like the show. You know, the guy is going, someone sends you money through mobile money, it's 1,000 cedis, you are standing in the middle of nowhere and you are saying, did you say you sent me 1,000 cedis? I mean, there could be someone on the motorbike or somebody there who wants that 1,000 cedi badly. And so he follows you to that mobile money joint, robs you and rob that mobile money joint. And so lifestyle and also a lot of these things come into play when you are talking about, you know, why these things are happening. Now, I mean, almost all of us have 2 mobile phones, 3 mobile phones. And so people, we talk loud, we don't care where we are standing. And so people are literally not cautious where they are. And also, you ask yourself, those who engage these people are sometimes people who are supposed to be protecting us. So sometimes they end up engaging what you call it, some of this miscreant who end up robbing the people that are supposed to, you know, have the money. And so, Nana, literally that's what it is.
I mean, I was putting it more to unemployment and probably school dropouts where, well, the guy is unemployed, there's no excuse to rob, but you know, man must live, and some have chosen the wrong way to live.
Well, somehow you are right, but the truth is that if you say you are unemployed and because of that you want to engage in armed robbery, I'm saying that, I mean, that wouldn't fit. The truth is that we need to put in more measures. We need to put in more measures. Robbery takes place in the US. Robbery takes place in, literally everywhere. Mm-hmm. The only difference is that over there, it is, you are going to be arrested if you do. But over here, it is difficult for people to be arrested. And once people know when they commit crime, they are going to get away with it without anyone ever knowing who they were. I mean, I drove all the way from the eastern part of Accra to this place. Nana, I doubt I went through any surveillance camera that captured me if I went through a red light or I went through a blue light or a green light. These are measures we should put in place. Once we put in all these measures, those who want to commit crime would know that if I commit crime, the evidence will be there. If I'm not arrested today, the next day I'm going to be arrested. And so people, I mean, you know, people have robbed, people work with the banks. We've had bank staff robbing banks in this country. And so what do we say to those people? They are gainfully employed. And yet they would solicit the help of, you know, friends and criminals to help them rob maybe a bullion van. And so we just need to put in measures. If we put in the measures, I'm going to tell you that if I'm afraid to commit crime, because if I do, I'll be arrested, I wouldn't commit crime. Yeah.
Adam, so I mean, are you suggesting which would be the best way out to, you know, increase education and increase employment, or increase security?
See, I would say increase security. Because if you are going to increase security, what happens is that you get some of these people employed. Because if you have to put, at the moment we have less than 30,000 police officers, including those who perform guard duties in this country. Less than 30,000. Look at the population. The UN ratio says it should be 1:500. We are doing around 800, 7 to 1,000 thereabout. That is just not right. And so if we had to increase, what do you call it, the number to say 30,000, we would have been increasing the number to, we would have been doubling the number. And so some of these people who end up committing crime would have been recruited into this service, properly trained. Look at the whole fire service, okay? The whole fire service. They have less than 8,000 staff, okay? They have less than 8,000 staff. So if the whole fire service have less than the whole country put together, 8,000. So just look at the ratio and see, probably myself and you, if we ever had a problem, we will never be covered. That's what it means. If the fire service could recruit, let's say, 30,000, that is, if you take just the fire service and the police, that's 60,000 young people we are going to be recruiting. Take, you know, the other services. I'm talking about just security. And so we can solve this problem. One way is to make sure some of these young people who probably for lack of employment after school, they probably not well trained, and so we recruit them into security services and get them properly trained, and they would end up becoming serving the nation. And so we could look at it with, you know, that two-pointed approach.
That would just be a drop in the ocean. I mean, if you take what, I mean, like this year, there's like 400,000 students that went into JSS.
Yeah.
You know, about nearly 400,000. In 3 years, you have 400,000 kids, give or take, let's say 350, let's say 50,000 dropouts. So you have 350,000 children who have come out on the market. I mean, how much will the police absorb? How much will fire service absorb? You know, what do you, even if they absorb the 90,000, what do you do with the 300,000? And you know, most of these kids are going to fall out. How many are going to be absorbed in the universities? So, and you know this UN ratio that you're talking about?
That's right.
You see, it works when the citizenry itself is self-aware. I won't drop litter, I won't cross the red light, I won't do this, I won't do that. So 1:500 is okay. But when you come to here where, you know, and I wish I'd show you some pictures, how everybody just breaks the law willy-nilly, we'll probably need, you know, 2 policemen to one citizen. You know, so at this rate, if you don't educate and employ, mop up this mass, no matter how much security you put in, they'll beat it.
No, see, Nana, the truth is that, I mean, I'm sure you have lived in Britain, I'm aware. You and I know that when you jump red lights, or if you do speed in certain areas that probably the speed camera catches you, you pay. These are measures that you put in place, and some of this, I mean, we have people, what do you call them, the guys who would clamp your vehicles. These are measures we can put in place to make sure that, you see, these young people you are talking about, the truth is that in this country, you would have one person who literally takes care of probably 10 people. So if you have one person who is taking care of probably 10 people, another way of making sure people, you know, stay away from committing some of these crimes is to make sure that we get more personnel. The education is more important, but the truth is that the institutions that are supposed to be, you know, educating all of us not to litter, not to jump red lights, not to do A, not to do B, not to do C, they are there by name, but they are not well resourced.
Let me go to the phone and speak to Dr. Vladimir Nchidanso, who's also, even though he talks a lot of foreign affairs issues, he's very apt in security issues. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Doc, I was just trying to find out, what do we do? Do we educate and mop up all these young men, or do we increase security and, you know, stop them from being, you know, being aggressive? Because robbery seems to be on the high, and it seems to be getting more violent. I mean, but where are we?
The causality is not monocausal. It's a multiple kind of causal relations. I mean, the economy, unemployment, indiscipline generally, the political situation, the canopy hanging over our head, which is one of showmanship, especially since the days of the so-called revolution. We've had all kinds of things. But it's becoming extremely rampant because actually institutions of state can no longer cope with the trend. They are not well resourced, and the economy has not picked up the way it should. Thirdly, we are ourselves not security conscious, and discipline is also very high. What we can do, a lot of things. I mean, we need to revamp the economy very seriously. We need to allow the institutions of state also to be properly resourced, and then make sure that miscreants don't enter these institutions. Of late, you would see that some of the institutions, be it thefts or police or the army or whatever it is, are the persons who supply these miscreants with weapons and accoutrements for them to perpetrate these heinous crimes. And again, I think the justice system must be that fast and punitive. It must be an all-round kind of attack on this kind of canker, because from land guards to vigilantism to armed robbery, I don't see any difference, and I believe that the law must crank the whip. Other than that, we're going to have a situation where in future, where we have any national problem of indiscipline, you have some kind of non-state actors ganging up together to create a kind of terrorist organization.
Doc, but why are robbery getting so violent? I mean, you hear broke into a man's house, they shot the man, they took a phone, shot the wife, they took a tablet. I mean, some of the things that they get away with, and the violence perpetrated, it doesn't balance out.
It doesn't balance out, but because you are outside them. For them, and they go with narcotism. I mean, when we're talking about catching the big fishes who trade in narcotics, people think but that is the case. Once you reserve some of the trade in the country, these who are on drugs and what they're doing, they don't know at the moment they're doing that, they don't just know, or they don't feel it. You came to rob and go away, but then they will kill, rape, and that kind of thing. And that's why I'm saying the punishment should be very, very punitive. And education must go on very seriously about how we should defend ourselves. What kind of houses are we putting up? What kind of security measures do we put in? What kind of, when you talk of vigilantes, actually there must be community vigilantes. And again, the era of camping policemen in barracks should be over. Policemen must be staying in homes, in communities, and therefore community policing should be more effective. Because if the police are staying among the people, then they know everybody and they know, how to tackle crime. There is a lot we have to do in order to stem this tide. And again, gun running in the country is very high because of tribal conflicts and other conflicts. Many more guns are in the country. I think Kwesieni has done some work on that. And several millions of illegal arms are in the hands of illegal people. All these things must be tackled very seriously, or else we're going to see that on the high, as they have the arms and they are on drugs and they are poor. We're going to have a lot of that.
Doc, hold on. I have in studio Adam Bonner, who's also a security expert. I'm going to put a question to him, which I'll come back and put straight to you.
Right.
Now, Adam, in the UK, right?
Yeah.
When somebody's going to rob, they make sure, I mean, the weapon they would hold at most would be a screwdriver.
Yeah.
So that if you caught him and you took him to the police station, you know, he's just coming to rob. He wasn't going to harm anybody. And therefore, the judgment is not so harsh. And so, they really, in robbery, make sure you don't have too much of offensive weapons around you so that when you're caught, look, I was just here to rob and go. That's I mean, if we were to apply that law to say, listen, if the guy is there only to rob, maybe it's X sentence, and if he's there with an with the arms, then it's going to be triple X sentence. I don't know. Would it reduce the violence in the robbery where the robber knows that, listen, let me just go in and try my luck, because if I'm caught with a gun, it's a different story.
Well, the UK is a different place. Ghana is a different place. In the UK, it's going to be easy for sometimes you break into someone's home, he's going to give you everything because he knows the next minute you are going to be arrested. But in Ghana, the truth is that, and in the UK, if you came to my home in Britain, I only have my bank card, my credit card. And so it will be difficult for you to have some amount of money. But here, these guys are becoming violent because they believe that the more they put you through punishment, the more you will tell them where the money is. And so with that, and also coupled with the fact that some of them have been able to sometimes pay their way through the justice delivery system, like Doctor said. And so the guy is in court. The next day, probably he gets a lawyer who is able to say, well, show me the evidence. And the next day, the guy is out there and is perpetrating the same crime. And so we need to look at it. We have too much liquid cash around. And once there's liquid cash around, people are going to be violent, because then sometimes they they break into people's home. And they believe that even if you tell them I don't have the money, they think you should have the money. But in Britain, if you live in Britain, hardly would you see a 50-pound note. But here, 50 Ghana cedi notes is everywhere. You won't go to an ATM and the ATM is going to be dispensing 50-pound notes. Unless you are traveling to Africa, you go to the bank and sometimes they give you a lot of notes. And so I think these are different scenarios. And so we need to be careful with what we are saying, so that the more we put our monies in the bank, I am looking at it from that point. The more we put our money in the banks, the more it's going to reduce, what do you call it, violent crimes in this country. But the more we market women would put money in Ghana must go backs and take them home, and the criminals will come and attack you and take it. And so those who are listening, I think there is no need. These days the bank, some of them even work Sundays. And so let's not take the money. So once the criminals get to know, even if they come to your house, there's no money.
Let me go to Doc, but my same question is the same scenario where I'm saying that in the UK, if you're caught in a robbery and you have no offensive weapon, the sentence is quite minimal. And if you're caught in the same robbery but you have a gun on you, or a knife or something, it's a different story altogether. So people who are going to rob would make sure that, listen, let me try, at most a screwdriver just to crack open the window and go and try my luck. Would something reduce the violence in robbery if we introduce those laws? Doc, have I got you?
Hello?
Yeah, Doc.
Yes.
Should I repeat my question?
Yes, I think so, because...
Good. I'm saying that, in the UK laws, if you're caught in a robbery without any offensive weapon, your sentence is quite minimal. And if you're caught in the same robbery and you have a gun on you or a knife on you, it's a different story altogether. So, people who are, breaking into somebody's house would make sure they don't have any offensive weapons, so that just in case they are caught, you're not dealt with as an armed robber, but just a robber. I mean, could something like that work here to reduce the violence in crime?
Well, the point is, over here we also have these penalty points. Depending on the gravity of the offense, the penalty points will be used in judging you. But I seem to agree with my friend out there in the studio about the very fact that the high monetization of the economy is one thing also to blame. Alternatively, also the opulence which we display. Some young person who was in school yesterday, tomorrow is president. And that kind of opulence we show throughout society. And then we revere such persons whether they got the money, prosperity or paying or that kind of thing. We revere and they are the people whom we accord all kinds of respect. All these things and the attitude of the get rich quick attitude are all parts of it. And so, yes, the situations are different in Britain and in Ghana and elsewhere. What we can do is, as I've already said, the education of people and their security measures they take for their houses. My friend over there has given one. Why do you carry so much money to the house? Of course, that doesn't mean that when they come to the house, they wouldn't beat you or kill you or that kind of thing. Especially when you say you don't have any money. I think the education from the courts, the police being honest. You see, corruption is one of the things also. Like we are saying, somebody gets on the street again and commits the same crime and things like that. And I think the corrective measures that we put in our prisons also are not adequate. At times, we make more criminals of them when we put them in the prison. So if you can improve on our prisons also and make the corrective education over there more important, some kind of habit of work before they come out and that kind of thing. So it's a holistic approach. It's not going to die today until we all are part of the making of that thing.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much for your submission there.
You're very welcome.
You're welcome to Doctor. This Dr. Vladimir Chidanso. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, the conversation continues. And parents at home, aren't you wondering where your kids are and why they are living such opulence when you know clearly that their wages don't support their lifestyles? We're coming back.
Since the police started recording a number of attacks on residents within Mile 7, the Mile 7 police decided to draw up a strategy to deal with the menace. And since one of the strategy had to do with impounding motor vehicles they see at odd hours within that jurisdiction or that stretch, and motorbikes that usually ply these areas, especially the quiet areas, and that is the time that we have observed that they strike when people are not around. When the place is quite serene and quiet. So the Mile 7 police decided to begin the interception of these motorbikes. And that is why we have these number of motorbikes here. And then that is a way to also try and also intensify police presence within Mile 7. And even one of the robberies that took place 2 weeks ago within a Forex Bureau at Kingsby area, there too, one of the suspects was arrested. And the other one managed to escape. And we also retrieved a locally manufactured pistol that they used in committing the robbery, when in the process they tried to also shoot the attendants in the Forex Bureau. So there's a number of strategies, and there are a number of measures that we are trying to implement them to be able to curb the menace of robberies that has taken place within this short period. When the motorbikes are impounded, if you say the motorbike is yours, you need documentation covering the motorbikes. So apart from the documentation, you realize that sometimes too, these motorbikes are stolen. And it's not even them. They go and steal them, use them for the operation, then they abandon them. And even sometimes when the police have given them hot chases, we have seen that they abandon the motorbikes and they escape. So there are a number of ways we go through to find out who the motorbike belonged to, where they got it from, and why they are using it for what they are doing. So we conduct some sort of screening or checks on the motorbikes, and they tell us that, oh, maybe it is not mine, I had to steal it from this place. And this boy we got, this Solomon Klucher we speak about now, was somebody, they came all the way from Ashama Newtown and came to commit the robbery here, then they will go back again. So because the struggle becomes very difficult because it has to do with two regions that would have to manage them. They move from one region to another, commit their crime, then they go back.
Are you able to tell us what is, contributing to the seeming surge in, these robberies here at Achimota Mile 7?
It's not something I can just place my hand on. What we have observed is that they monitor people and find the times that are convenient for them, the times that they believe that people probably go into the business district. People will go to work and they'll leave their homes, because if you look at these areas, it has to do with the residential areas. So maybe even if people are being attacked at that time, it will take people time to be able to get there. So that is the trend probably we are observing, looking at the times when it will be convenient for them at a time where people are not around for them to be able to commit the crimes they do.
Some accounts from the police there. I want you to react to it, but before then, at the break, you mentioned something. I know you said it, but I want us to emphasize. You're saying that the growing spate of robberies because we are not matching security to development and growth.
That's right.
Can you elaborate that?
That's right. For instance, if you look at University of Ghana, I want to use some of our old institutions and communities. Take University of Ghana. University of Ghana had the Legon police station. All right. If you go to KNUST have a police station. I think UCC do also have something of a sort. Then fast forward. If you take UDS doesn't have a police station. WA campus, if you've been monitoring the cable, from your own account, I think one of the chiefs or somebody in WA is complaining that the spate of robbery has increased in the WA municipality. And if I'm from the Upper West region, it used to be one of the most peaceful regions probably in the world, where if you pinched your neighbor, they will tell you the local language, and they leave it there. But when UDS got WA campus, definitely the region, I didn't live there that much, the region had that surge in the number of students. If it was even 5,000 students who were going to descend from all over the world into the region, and you didn't match the population growth, the sharp population growth to the number of security or bobbies in the town, definitely crime rate is going to go up. If you take the universities that have been established, recent universities, most of them don't have facilities of a sort, attached to them. And so it tells you how, as a nation, we have drifted. I'm happy, off the air, I got to know, you have something to do with Tema. I lived and grew up in Tema. It used to be a sweet community where, things were done. If you lived in Tema in the 70s and you lived in Britain, those days you will realize that there was no difference. We had police people patrolling the streets in Tema in the 70s. Go to Tema today. Does it look like the Tema? Maybe those in Tema today wouldn't know. And so what I'm trying to say is that we probably don't have that political will. And that we, the citizens, aren't also asking our leaders the most critical questions. If we leave this to the police alone, I tell you, they are always going to sugarcoat it, because who appoints who? I mean, their leaders are appointed by a particular certain president. And so it becomes very difficult to get them to speak to the actual issue. We would have to speak. I mean, we are citizens. I mean, when I say ordinary Ghanaians, we would have to speak and ask them to, as a matter of policy, and let me put it on record that as a nation, Nana, we don't have a comprehensive national security and safety policy. We don't have it. I've challenged them to it. We don't have one. We haven't produced one.
So we just live each week at a time.
We don't have one. At least I know we have the road policy, we have a health policy, we have education policy, but national security and safety policy that says that maybe this year we want to increase security infrastructure to this, we want to do this. We don't have it. And so when
how important is that?
It is very important. For instance, just Google national security and safety policy Britain. It tells you cyber security, it tells you marine security, it tells you how we are going to tackle this form of terrorism, and the resources we need to commit to the tackling of crime and, you know, various forms of crime. Once you have that policy, a policy is not supposed to be stagnant. It's supposed to be reviewed every now and then. We don't have it. And so tell me, we have the road levy policy, we have the health insurance, whatever policy, we have every policy we are charging, but security we don't have.
Could it be that they have it, but they haven't?
No, we don't have it. We have pieces of it. We have pieces of it. We have something, a policy, something on, some disjointed, we have something on cyber security. We have something on maybe a bit about marine. So, but a holistic, comprehensive one that says, because you see, when you have a policy document.
Should a policy like that anticipate that, listen, in 2020, there will be too many young people here and therefore build 2 more police stations there? Should a policy like that anticipate something like that?
Exactly. A policy like that, for instance, we have a new regime. The MPP took over from the NDC. If you realize the Professor Kwesi, you know, 40th, whatever, they gladly handed over to the sitting president and said, we will tweak it here and there. It's a policy document. I'm trying to get a copy and see if there is something on security. They mentioned other things, but I'm yet to get a copy. Once we have that, first of all, a policy like that, we should be able to say, we are going to spend probably every year $1 billion or $1 million US to be able to do A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. If you don't do it, I have access to that policy. I would ask you questions if probably I encounter you. But we don't have it. And so as at when it pleases you, you decide that, okay, these people, let's throw in A, let's throw in B. Nana, one other thing we haven't also looked at is that, you see, you would get up and the next day, communities are fast developing. Now, Accra is gone beyond Insaum. Accra is gone beyond Kasoa. Yeah. Accra is gone beyond, tell me, it's gone beyond even the vote. Accra has gone beyond the Volta region. It's gone beyond Ho into probably Aflao or maybe Togo. And so what it means is that one would want to ask, what are we doing? And so the next day, you get up and you go into a community and you have probably 100, 200 houses built, and the police don't have a clue that this infrastructure exists. The fire service don't have a clue. We have people in there. You only have to wait for crimes to happen before we get to know these people are coming under attack. And so you see, a policy like that would help us to be able to situate some of these things in proper context. But at the moment, we don't have it. And so it's almost like, I mean, I'm sure we will discuss that in another day. During the transition, when is it 7th December? I mean, 7th January. 7th December, okay. When after the election.
After the elections.
I mean, something happened and we lost sight of it. We lost sight of it, but it's not the reason why we are here. So probably we'll discuss that another day. And so it tells you that, you see, as a nation, we are not serious about our security. We are not. People build homes and we are happy to put in flower pots, okay? Huge, I mean, 100-kilo flower pots. And yet the door to the house is about 10 kilos. You understand me? And you ask yourself, people build story buildings, and they have, what do you call it, burglar proofs up there. All right? And you are aware that even Parliament House, it's not, it tells you that even those who are supposed to be making the policy, there was fire up there, and the turntable we have for the fire service can do up to 5th floor. We have buildings in this country that goes up to 27, 32 floors. So should something happen up there, what happens? This policy document would say, as a nation, we can only do up to 5 floors. If we have to do 10 floors, we need turntables that can do 10 floors, but we don't have it. And so the spate of robbery you see today, it is because, you see, we are not matching the security infrastructure to development. We are not doing that. And so, I'm not cutting you, but see, modern policing has moved from the regimental policing to what I call, I've done a lot of research into this, what do you call it, civilian policing. We still have our policemen who think like they are military men, who think infantry, booga, brutality. You talked about why are these people becoming violent. They are becoming violent because I have seen policemen arrest people and they slap them in the middle of nowhere. They slap them even when they are cameras, they'll be slapping. I think I saw, and you see, when armed robbers get to know when I'm caught, I'm going to be lynched. You understand me? Usually, they are psychic. They think, well, if I don't do it in such a way that I can get away and I'm caught, I'm going to die anyway. You talked about Britain. How many people get lynched in Britain? They take how many people, the guy is caught, they say even in Britain, they say when you catch the guy, give him a seat, give him a hot coffee, and when the police come, that's we used to joke about this. When you catch him, you don't have to beat him, give him a hot, cup of, cappuccino, and then you call the police to come and take him away. But here, the guy gets lynched, and so usually when and I'm not saying it would be the only reason why, but the truth is that we need to reorient the training regime of our police officers. We can't have police officers who live in barracks. Police officers are supposed to be living in the community. Do we have a police barracks in Britain? Do we have a police barracks in America? Do we have a police barracks in Australia? Do we have it in Japan? You don't. When it used to be regimental, it was regimental because if there was any confusion and they used them, you want to get all of them together at the same time. Now, it has to do with intelligence. The guy doesn't stay in the community. How then does he pick vital information about what is going on? I will tell you where I stayed in Britain. My next door was actually a police officer. I never knew. I would see him around the chute where you dump your rubbish, picking things and opening. I thought this guy was something wrong with him. Until a day I had to go in there.
30 seconds, let's round up.
I realized this guy was a police officer. Can't we do the same thing here? Move our police officers out
into
of
the system.
Into the system.
Can pick us up. Well, armed robbery on the increase, and it's so multifaceted. Education, security awareness, security infrastructure, everything should be on the rise. And I think Adam raised the most important thing. Let's have a policy as to what's our plan on security so that maybe I can plug myself into the security plan. Time is up. I'm back to do this all over again. Adam, thank you very much.